Let's get started with the Husqvarna Viking Designer Brilliance 80 threading and winding a bobbin on this machine. Now you can look in your book that came with it, the little user's guide, but do you know there's videos in this machine? Now I'm going to do it, but I'm going to quickly show you where you can go back at any time and see how to use and thread this machine. So we did talk about that the user's guide is right up here, but right underneath the next row, this last one has a little graduation hat, and that gets us into the knowledge center. So in here there's all different things that you can explore, from stabilizer to sewing instructions to things about the bobbin. How about threading the needle? So if you actually were here, and again there's more information, embroidery preparation, threading the machine or threading the needle. So you can touch one of these options here and it will come up with information. Now here's a little trick. If the writing is a little small, there's an A+ and an A-. A+ will make the font a little larger. Now notice I'm using a little stylus with a kind of a rubbered tip on it. It makes it a little easier to touch the icon. So if you find that your fingers kind of getting in the way and not getting the icon you think you're touching, switch over to something like this. So you'll see me using that throughout. As you can see, you can read through step by step, but if there's a video, that little play symbol comes up and you can touch it and it will go into detail with no sound how to do that particular technique. Now it usually has a little stopping point so you can do it, but if you want the whole video to play, there's a place here where you can say play the whole video without pausing at different steps, and you can watch the whole entire sequence and follow right on screen. So it'll come down and go back up, which is what we'll do, but I'm going to explain a few things that you're going to do through this. There's even one with a close-up of how the needle threader works. That would be like the next video that would play. So if I arrow down, I can see the next part and so forth. So doing is this the needle threader? Nope, that's the remaining part of it. There's another video for the needle threader. So they break it down just as much as I break it down. I'm just going to give you some explanations plus a few tips because we do help a lot of students work with their machines. And I've seen a lot of things go wrong, just by operator error. So that's what we try to do here is highlight to simplify so you don't have the problems and you get started right away. So first off, today's thread I'm using is going to have like an end on both ends. So it doesn't actually matter which way the thread comes off the spool. I know people ask us that all the time. And if you do have a bigger spool, take this part off too, so it can slide all the way on. Now, there are vertical spool pins and horizontal spool pins. If your thread has a little X in it, that is a cross-wound thread. You will want to lay it on the horizontal spool pin and match a cap just the size of the end. That's why there was smaller ones and larger ones in with the machine. Now, if you have a gigantic spool, then you need to use a thread stand that will sit beside the machine over here, and then it would do the same exact thing where it would come up and then come over to this first guide. So you're going to also notice that when I thread this machine, I'm going to kind of hold the thread with two hands and almost thread it with my left hand, and that helps the resistance to make sure that I get in all the places that the machine needs threaded. If you thread too gentle, the machine might actually be threaded and then it might not work. So thread with purpose, as I say. So we come around the back side, down underneath, come behind and down. Now in here you're going to notice there's a little fin, and people ask me, well, what side of the fin am I supposed to go on? It doesn't matter when you're threading with a single thread, but it is there. So when you thread with a twin needle or double needle, we put one thread on the left and one on the right. And magically both threads get equal tension. That is the tension in there. And so when I talk about threading with purpose, number one, you do need to have the presser foot up. So if it's down right now, make sure you touch the button to lift it up. And as you come down, I like to have my students take right here. They're coming up the next side. Go ahead and floss. 1, 2, 3. And it makes sure it places the thread in all the important parts. Trust me. Come in and back, come in on the right, down on the left, and then there's a guide at the top of the needle on the left side. So we'll get a little closer here and show you the needle threader in our needle threader video. But as you use that needle threader, you can see that you don't have to take your glasses off or squint. It just easily pulls it through. Now, I didn't do a bobbin just yet. So from here, do you know on this machine, you can actually do a bobbin while the machine is threaded. That's what these two little bars are for. So we could even come right on up here. You just make sure that the presser foot is up, and then we can wind a bobbin. So I am going to show you how to wind a bobbin. Is to kind of come back. We'll take around that silver part, click it underneath the pre-tensioner, and I'm going to shorten my thread here. Boop. Okay. So bobbins, they have a little Husqvarna Viking logo right up at the top here, and we're going to take the thread and from the inside out of the hole, bring the thread up through the top. So you can kind of see that it's coming up through the top, and I'll place it on the bobbin winder. Once I place it on there, make sure that it kind of sits in this guide. There's a guide right here. And I'm going to engage the bobbin winder by pushing this lever forward. When I push that forward, it does come up with bobbin winding. So it knows that we're going to be doing that next. I'm going to hold my thread straight up with my hands, and I'll go ahead and press play. So this is your go and your stop button or pause button, and it'll just go ahead and wind. If it breaks off, great, but if there is a little tail like mine does, usually leave me, take some scissors and cut that off. You don't want any tail left at the top sticking out, because that's going to be in the way for when the bobbin and thread connect. So if you don't want it winding so fast, you can bring that down. Actually, it's already full. Now there is a cutter right here, so you can lift the bobbin up and cut the thread right on that little cutter. And because you had the Husqvarna Viking logo up, that is ready to go right into the bobbin area. Now when the machine comes to you, there is a white bobbin already in there, so you can use that. It's okay thread. But I wouldn't, if you're wanting to match thread, that is something that I'll have you maybe set aside for a little bit. So drop your bobbin down so you can see the logo and let it spin around. You're looking for about 5/30, this little groove right here. And as the thread drops into it, you're going to pull it to the left. And sometimes I'll put my finger right here and hear that click. From here to here is the bobbin case tension. It has to be in there, otherwise it's just not pretty. But after that, bring your thread over the top part, and then underneath this little, see where the arrow is? That little part is a cutter. Then sometimes I'll even put my door for my bobbin case over it and then cut last. And it just holds the perfect length of thread. Let me show you something about this door. See that little circle? It's a magnifying glass. So if you ever need to know what size needle is that you are holding in your hand, you have a magnifying glass right at your fingertips. All right, so let me go ahead and rethread the machine one more time. And we're a little closer where we can see the needle threader. So when you use the needle threader, you're going to pull it down, hook it underneath that part on the left, pull it all the way down next. See how it comes around the back of the needle? Make sure it comes all the way around the back. Then take the thread in the little mouth, lift up. So you see how I'm lifting up towards you, and then let go. You have to let it go so it can pull the little loop through the back of the needle. You just pull it right on out. Now we're ready to sew. Just take some fabric. I've folded fabric in half. I always will be sewing on 2 layers. And then just step on the foot control. The foot will go down and take a few stitches to lock and start to stitch. If it sounds like it's a sewing machine, you did it right. I'm going to use this thread cutter, and it'll cut the thread and lift the foot. And let's take a look at our stitch. So we have a straight stitch on the front and a straight stitch on the back. So now we're ready to progress. If you don't have a straight stitch, rethread the machine, redo your bobbin, check and make sure the needle that you are using is right for the fabric you're using. There's a lot of variables with sewing. So hopefully through all these videos, we'll answer your questions along the way so you have perfect stitching every time.